Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e. This is a review of The Curse of Strahd, and I've been meaning to do this for a very long time because it's one of my favourite adventure books. This adventure is an expansion of Ravenloft, one of the best adventures ever made for Dungeons & Dragons. It tells the story of Count Strahd von Zarovich. This is not your normal Dungeons & Dragons adventure. This is a horror. It's designed to take players from level 1 through to level 10, although they might wind up being a little bit higher or a little bit lower depending on how much they do. Before I get too far, I'm going to say it right now, this book is worth your money. It is probably one of the most densest packed adventures I've seen. It's well organised, it's relatively easy to run, even for a new dungeon master, although the aspects of horror are the ones that can sort of unwind you a little bit. So Curse of Strahd, let's have a look. We get the contents page, easily broke down, and also includes the different maps on a map index on the front page here of where the contents are. So near the front. Revisiting Ravenloft, the introduction, how to run the game, the marks of horror, how to actually run a horror story. You're going to have some moments of levity and humour, otherwise it's going to get very depressing for your players as they get absolutely pounded by this adventure, which tends to be the case. In fact, make sure they have an understanding that it's very deadly, this adventure. So Strahd von Zarovich, the key antagonist of this particular adventure, and it's important to understand how he thinks and to make him your own. It talks about his history, how he became who he is. There's a lot of information on why Strahd does what he does, Taroka cards and how to set them up, because this thing can be run multiple ways over time. So it can be a bit confusing to start off with, but my suggestion is spend a little bit of time getting familiar with it. I bought the cards and I still use them when I get a chance. Now this is one of the strongest aspects to this particular adventure, and that is the adventure hooks, because there are 4. There's the plea for help, the mysterious visitor who comes and gives them a quest to do. There's the werewolves in the mist, and there's simply the mist itself. It talks a lot about the factions, so you can use the factions in your game if you want to. And then once you get them into Barovia, which doesn't take very long, there's no mucking around here, then we're right into it. The lay of the land, so chapter 2 is the lands of Barovia. This talks about the people, the soulless ones, those who are trapped. You just can't leave this place, that's one other thing. Vistani are like Strahd's servants. They do all of the legwork, and you've got to be really careful about how you interact with those particular characters. A little bit of their lore. There's a whole bunch of random encounters that you can use when you're starting out this adventure. It talks about the evil eye and Vistani curses. And then you get a whole bunch of random encounters that you can run. And then it breaks down the entire map. You get provided in the back of this is a huge map with all the different locations, and this breaks it down into pretty easy bite-sized pieces, and each chapter sort of represents one location on that map, including Castle Ravenloft. The maps are really impressive. I really enjoyed them. Chapter 3 is the village of Barovia. You won't spend a lot of time there. You get a map of that location on your, which is pulled out. It's a tear out map that you can use later on. It breaks it down into different areas. There's a couple of NPCs in this location that the players can interact with. Irina is going to be one of the key characters that they will interact with and hopefully save. It's not guaranteed, but there's a chance they could be successful. Mad Mary, and they will encounter right off the bat, as it happens, they're going to find themselves having to face a vampire spawn. One of the funny aspects to this adventure is at the end of each chapter and section, there's usually some special events that take place which you can embed or place when you see fit. And one of them is the dream pastry. So you've got to be careful of night hags. They have a lovely time cooking up little boys and girls and then feeding them to the local residents. The March of the Dead is basically all the people who have ever come to Barovia, in some way they've perished and they are stuck here and they march constantly night after night. Chapter 4 is Castle Ravenloft, which gives you some random encounters, breaks it all down. This chapter is basically a complete duplication of the original adventure Ravenloft. So if you're wondering if there was anything different, no, it's pretty much exactly the same thing. It's just been upgraded and modernized to include new art and maths and mechanics for the Dungeons & Dragons 5e adventure, although I feel like you could probably use it in any adventure if you wanted to, no matter what the system. Gertruda, she's basically snack food for later on. There's a chance of saving her if you want to. Now, navigating through that map is really difficult. Isometric maps, and particularly one this complicated, can be a little bit confusing at times, but there's some really awesome characters in here, which the players will either talk to or not. It's really up to them. There's so much going on in this particular chapter, it's a little bit hard for anybody to sort of get their bearings sometimes, and it's possible for the players to explore every single location if they wanted to, although that would take a long time. All the different crypts down below in the dungeon area are included. Strahd's tomb, Sergei, is also included in here. You get a little bit of information on Strahd's parents as well. Chapter 5 is the Township of Vallaki. Now, this is the Township of Vallaki, if you ask me. There's a lot going on here. It's quite a cool location. There's not a huge number of locations, but still enough NPCs, and they are at threat. If things don't go well, things will unwind on you. I think my entire party wound up with this location getting wiped out by vampire spawn. The coffin maker. Beware the coffin maker. This has definitely got spoilers in it. Each township has usually somebody governing it, and for some reason they're called burgomasters. The burgomaster in this location is a real, well, I have to say, he's a prick. So as you can see, it's all broken down into your location, gives you some text to read out, and a little bit of information, so relatively easy to navigate through if you needed to. I still recommend reading the entire adventure rather than trying to just do it on your own and just play it by ear. It's a bit hard at times. There's lots of different NPCs with different motivations that all conflict. Sometimes they align, but often they conflict. The players may figure it out, but I doubt it. That there is some famous characters, a vampire hunter in particular, who is part of this entire adventure, and he's going to be encountered here in Vallaki first. There's the map for the Coffin Maker shop. That brings back memories. Okay, I use Blinsky and Blinsky's toys quite a lot in my adventure, particularly the Blinsky dolls. He's got a lot of really odd toys that really macabre, things that really don't make a lot of sense. Why would you give this sort of thing to a child? I do not understand, but still very, very cool. There's a Vastini camp close by to Vallaki, so just bear in mind that there's somebody to either help you or set you back. There's the Festival of Blazing Sun. As I said, there is usually a special event tied to each chapter. And then we get Chapter 6, the Old Bone Grinder. This is where the hags hang out, the night hags, and they grind up little children and sell them as pastries. Chapter 7 is Agnavostholt. Agnavostholt is the location of a dead silver dragon. It was part of Order of the Dragon. It's got a great location. Finding your way through here without setting off traps is a little bit hard. There's a lot going on here because you need parts of the stuff that are here, the treasures and the elements. There's a skull you need to acquire and take to a particular location. And this is where your players will come across the revenants, and they're going to probably chase them down quite a lot. They're going to spend a lot of time running from those revenants, because I know my players did. They will hopefully come across Esmeralda, part of the special events that you can play in this adventure. Chapter 8 is the village of Krezek. Krezek is basically a very small location that has the Abbey of St. Markovia. Now, this is a really twisted location. Think Island of the Freaks. This is essentially where the mongrel folk hang out. And there's an angel that has decided to take them under his wing and help them out. It's really not like that. It seems more like Frankenstein's lair than anything else, but he has his own motivations and reasons for doing it. There's more special events, and you also might have an opportunity to try and track down a wedding dress for a flesh golem, of all things. Chapter 9 is Toslinka Pass. This is where my players experienced various traps, but the one that stood out the most was definitely the rock that dropped them from a very high distance and killed a couple of them. Chapter 10 is the ruins of Breeze, and this is where they're going to come across Baba Yaga's creeping hut. Yes, Baba Yaga is in here, and she is a real cow. The creeping hut is probably one of the scariest parts of it. I wouldn't say Baba Yaga was, but certainly the creeping hut was. Chapter 11 is Van Richten's Tower. This is the vampire slayer I was talking about. They've got to be careful of that wagon sitting out the front there. It can blow up, and if they're not careful, it's booby-trapped up the kaboo, and my players blew that one up big time. There's a door they have to get through. It has a trap on it. They need to sort of figure out how to get past that as well. It's a very small location, still quite cool. And if they haven't faced any werewolves yet, this is where the first attack, the packs, will come and hunt them down. Esmeralda will also possibly appear in this location. Chapter 12 is the Wizard of Wines. This is where the were-ravens hang out, who make the wine, and wine is really what holds the whole place together. Unfortunately, the magic seeds that help germinate the wine and make the grapes have disappeared. They've been taken, they've been stolen, and now we've got blight setting in, and it's going to be up to the players to try and sort this out if they see fit to do so. They don't have to. The were-ravens are actually a really good ally for the players' characters, should they decide to do that. They might have an opportunity to deliver some wine. Chapter 13, the Amber Temple. This is where there is a lich. Not doing too well. A tough location, set up really to make a mess of players. And there's a lot of treasure in this location. Great map, but a lot of treasure. Heaps and heaps. Lots of things that they can gain that are imbued into their character if they want. There's a hidden phylactery, so if you want to actually get rid of the lich, you can, and it also gives you a map and location, like a model of the whole Ravenloft location. And what I suggest you do is if they come across that map room, just allow them to find a map of Ravenloft so you don't have to try to draw it out and navigate through that thing, and just plant the map right in front of them. Obviously taking out all the secret locations. Or not taking out the secret locations, because should it really matter? The map room should tell them everything they need to know. This is quite an involved chapter. It has an amber golem. Chapter 14 is Yester Hill. Yester Hill is where you're going to find a really strange tree. Golthus tree. Golthus tree is like a vampire-like tree, and they have to destroy it. At each location, you decide when Strahd is going to show up. It's really up to you. The blood spear is located here, and one of the more powerful items within the game. Chapter 15 is the Werewolf Den, and there's a lot of political playing going on with this Werewolf Den. It's really not as clear-cut as you might think. They could be allies, they could wind up being major villains depending on how things play out. Lots of really cool characters. And then we get the epilogue. It pretty much covers everything that might happen at the end of your adventure, and the kicker is that no matter what, Strahd is coming back. Appendix A is the character options, so you can play the haunted one as a background if you want. There's also a chart of gothic trinkets that you can include rather than using the ones from the player's handbook. Appendix B is a short adventure which I recommend you running the Death House. The Death House is actually pretty cool. Rose and Thorn, this is a house that pretty much is haunted. It's supernatural in nature. It's going to try to kill them. Chances are it will. But the secret to any kind of horror is to make sure you don't throw too many combats at them. Build up tension. And as you can see, the Death House is quite complicated. There's quite a bit going on there. I feel like the top section was great, but underneath it there was a bit too much combat, so you might want to trim that down a little bit. Easy to follow, easy to run. Appendix C is treasures, so this is the Tome of Strahd. Magic items are spelled out here. The Golthus Staff, the Blood Spear, the holy symbol of Ravenkind, the icon of Ravenloft, St. Markova's thigh bone, well you'll need that because it's going to be very important, and the Sun Sword if you want to have a big advantage. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's some really nice artwork. It gives you the feeling of something dark and sinister. Appendix D is monsters and NPCs, including a rather unusual Strahd animated armor, and I recommend using that baby. It's pretty nasty. Baba Yaga is detailed, Barovia Witches, Tree Blights, Esmeralda's stat block is in here. Esmeralda saved my party's lives more than a few times. Madame Ava, the Fortune Teller, the Mongol Folk, Phantom Warriors, Piddlewick 2, Rick DeVoe, who is going to be an important character, but usually only shows up for small parts of the adventure and probably near the end as well. Strahd Van Zarovich including his tactics, how to run him, how to use his lair actions, and of course he's very complicated. That's why he gets an entire page for his stat block. Strahd zombies, if you want to use them, which operate a little bit differently from the regular zombies you find in the monster manual. And we also get the Were-Raven. The Taroka deck is in Appendix E, and it gives you an understanding of how to use it, how to compose it, how to put it together, what everything means, what the pictures mean, and it gives you pictures of the actual cards. So if you don't want to go and buy the pack, you could photocopy all of these, blow them up a bit, and then cut them out. And you get a bunch of handouts, really helpful for the players. You can hand out throughout the game as you're playing it. I can't show you the pull-out map because unfortunately I don't have it anymore. As I said, The Curse of Strahd is one of my most favourite adventures that Wizards of the Coast has put out. I actually like this adventure more than the original Ravenloft, which I have run before. Oh, and by the way, when a character dies in Barovia, I wouldn't let them make another character. Honestly, let them play the same one. This is one adventure where death is not a release for any character being played by the players. If I ever gave any book a review and a grade, I would give this 2 thumbs up and an A+. If you found this video helpful and informative, please share and like the video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. If you want to support my channel, watch more of my videos. I don't do Patreon, but down in the description you'll find affiliate links to the Book Depository and Amazon, where you can buy stuff online. I get a small commission. You pay exactly the same price as you normally would. Just go through the link and buy what you want. So in the comments section, tell me what you think of The Curse of Strahd. Are you thinking of buying it? Are you running it? I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favourites. Until next time, keep rolling those 20s.